Warm greetings, Code Monkeys and fellow VEDSies, and welcome back to CodedLockFilms. The Q&A continues today with the long answer questions. Here we go.
What are your favorite romantic pairings from cartoons and anime?
The thing about me is, I don't really look for romantic pairings in stories a whole lot. It's just not a type of interpersonal relationship that I'm really all that interested in reading or experiencing a whole bunch of stories about. I definitely don't like stories that are devoted entirely to romance, and I'm just not really much of a shipper, so I don't know. This isn't really a question for me so much as it is for other people who are more interested in that kind of thing.
What are your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh romantic pairings?
So remember what I just said about me not being all that into romantic pairings? I'm especially not into it when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is a story about the trust and the bond between friends, and to me, throwing in a bunch of romance and shipping, it just kind of diminishes that aspect of the story for me, which is basically a way of saying I don't really have any.
Who are your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh characters? Who's your favorite Disney princess and why?
Probably either Belle or Rapunzel or the very, very underrated Tiana. I don't know. That's a really, really tough call to make. I really like Tiana because of her beliefs and her opinions about the fact that a happily ever after is very much within your grasp, but you have to work for it and earn it. I really appreciate that. When it comes to Belle, I like that she's very mature in most ways. I like that she is very much an adult. A lot of people say she's a textbook victim of Stockholm Syndrome, but those people tend to be the sort of people that don't actually know very much about Stockholm Syndrome, and also just generally don't seem to have paid very close attention to that movie, because if you actually pay close attention, what is happening is basically the exact opposite of Stockholm Syndrome. And Rapunzel I like because she goes through a very definite journey and matures a lot as a character over the course of her story, but still remains at her core the person that she always was, which I appreciate.
Can you suggest some of these bad YA novels to match for reviews?
When Rupert says these bad YA novels, the commenter gave me a specific list of them. First of all, if you want something recommended to Matt, just recommend it to Matt yourself. But I'm not really in the business of trying to get Matt to experience things that I don't think he will like. There are so many cool things that I know about that I know he would enjoy if he experienced them. That's, for the most part, what our podcast is about. And I have no desire to intentionally waste his time by giving him a suggestion for something that I think is not going to enrich his life. So, no. I am not going to suggest those things to Matt.
What are your guilty pleasure animes or cartoons?
I don't really have guilty pleasures. I don't believe in the concept of guilty pleasures, because pretty much anything that I enjoy, I am able to articulate and analyze what it is about that thing that I enjoy. And I don't feel guilty for the things that I like or don't like. I might recognize that sometimes my opinion might not be the particularly popular one, but that doesn't mean I feel guilty for having the tastes that I have, because I've thought about it and I can explain why I enjoy it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
In a heroes-like world where people are getting powers, but everything about your life is fundamentally the same, what do you think your storyline / superpower would be?
I've answered a variant of this question before, but I think that the superpower that would best fit me is the ability to split myself into multiple copies of myself, and my overall storyline would essentially be one of identity crisis.
Of the things you've been assigned for the podcast, what was your favorite / least favorite, and why?
My least favorite was definitely the last two things that we talked about in the episode What's Up with Andrew Lloyd Webber. If you're watching this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, you should follow our podcast. Linky linky. The thing that I enjoyed the most is probably Heroes. I had tons and tons of fun with that show, even when it was doing things that irritated me. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. If you want more details, you're gonna have to listen to the podcast.
Thoughts on bananas? By Joe, that's a bloody strange question.
I like them, but my main thought on bananas is that nobody opens these things the correct way. I'd be willing to bet that most of you peel your bananas by breaking the stem like this. But that's the wrong way to open a banana. Here's what you do to open a banana correctly. First of all, turn that mother lover upside down, then take your fingers and just pinch the end, and it will split very, very easily. And then you can just enjoy your delicious banana, hassle-free. You see how easy that was? That's the way monkeys open bananas. And if there's anything in the world you can learn from a monkey, it's how to open one of these guys.
How are you and Mavis getting along?
We're getting along pretty well. Yeah, I'm still eating the banana. What, you think I'm gonna waste it? She just finished her first class on obstacle course training, and we are currently working towards getting her certified as a therapy dog, which is super cool.
Are there any ideas for reviews that you want to do, but can't for some reason?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The main one that I'm thinking of is that I'd really like to do a retrospective on the entire Jak and Daxter video game series. But recording video games off of a console requires a lot of special equipment, and I just don't have that stuff right now. That kind of equipment can get a little bit pricey if you want anything of any kind of decent quality. I would like to do it someday, but it's just not in the cards right now. Oh, that's a good banana.
Are you planning on watching the new Star Trek series on CBS next year? Matt once did a Books vs. Movies musical. Would you ever consider a Disney Direct DVDs musical?
You are correct. Matt did once make a Books vs. Movies musical, a musical in which I was not invited to participate despite the fact that A, Matt and I were in the Bowling Green State University men's chorus together, so he knows I can sing. B, I actually have a YouTube channel that specializes in Disney-related content. And C, having an actual bass in the ensemble might have rounded out the sound quite nicely. Not that I'm bitter, but in all seriousness, to answer your question, no, I would not do a Disney Direct DVDs musical, because the format doesn't really lend itself well to that kind of thing in the way that Books vs. Movies does.
What is your typical approach to building a Pokemon team?
I don't really have a typical approach to building a Pokemon team, I just kind of do whatever for the most part. Although I did come up with one challenge that I did once when I was playing Pokemon Pearl. I decided to go through the game as if I were a gym leader, meaning that all of my Pokemon have to have at least one type in common. So I went through the game as sort of a ghost-type Pokemon gym leader in training. I had my friend James breed me several Pokemon and send them to me as eggs so that I could have a team that was of a proper size from the start, and that was a lot of fun.
Is that a book that you want to see adapted into film?
Yeah, sort of. The thing about me is that most of the books that I am really into are actually book series, like they're not standalone novels. And I'm increasingly of the mindset that longer book series are often better served by being adapted into television shows rather than into movies. And I would really like to see the Dresden Files made into a television show. Like on HBO or a Netflix series, something like that. When it comes to movies specifically, the first thing that springs to mind is The Phantom Tollbooth. It was one of my favorite novels when I was younger. I still really like it today. In fact, I actually own 2 copies because I read my original copy so many times that it actually started to fall apart. And it actually did get adapted into a movie, but from what I remember, the movie was kind of like the Dr. Seuss movies. By that I mean the older animated Dr. Seuss movies, in that it wasn't really different enough from the original text to be all that worthwhile on its own. But I think a modern adaptation of The Phantom Tollbooth could be really cool, so I'm gonna go with that.
If Watchmen was made into a TV series, who would you get to direct it? And why?
Directed by Matthew Vaughn, produced by Aaron Sorkin. I think Matthew Vaughn really has the visual flair and the directorial clout to make Watchmen into something really cool and special. It is already cool and special, but you know what I mean. And the reason I would get Aaron Sorkin to produce it is because Watchmen is a story of very big, complex ideas. It's a story with a lot of really unique interplay between the characters, and Aaron Sorkin handles that stuff really well. The reason I wouldn't get Aaron Sorkin to direct it is because none of the Aaron Sorkin stuff that I've seen really has a good visual style that I would feel fits Watchmen.
What do you think of the DC cinematic universe thus far? What are some of your favorite episodes of Doctor Who?
People seem to be under the impression that I'm a much bigger fan of Doctor Who than I actually am. Doctor Who is one of those shows that I have never really gotten fully into. Pretty much all of the Doctor Who that I've seen, I've enjoyed on some level or another, and I have seen a decent amount of it, but I haven't seen enough of it with the degree of repetition and analysis that I would feel I would need to have in order to pick a favorite episode.
I want to get into anime. What's a good place to start?
Gosh, that really depends on what kind of anime you're looking for. I always say that probably the best place to start if you're a person from the Western world and you're looking to get into anime is Cowboy Bebop, because it kind of gets your foot in the door when it comes to appreciating the style of anime and the ideas that you find in anime, but it's also got a lot of Western influence in it, so that is generally a good place to start. And from there on, it's basically just a matter of what kind of stories you're looking for. If you're looking for something really complex with a lot of deep themes and metaphors, Ghost in the Shell is a pretty good option. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more lighthearted, a bit sillier, and for lack of a better term, more anime-y, then Azumanga Daioh is a decent option. If you want something that's a little bit more out there in terms of its content, I really like Fooly Cooly for that. If you're looking for something really weird and totally out there, kind of art house and just kind of big sensory stimulation, Dead Leaves is another interesting one. If you're looking for a longer series to get into, I've been told a lot of really good things about Dragon Ball Z, although I've never actually seen Dragon Ball Z. I know I personally like Yu-Gi-Oh, although I'm in kind of the minority when it comes to that. If you're into the show Firefly and you want something that's a bit bigger, more sprawling, high adventure, Outlaw Star is good for that. And if you want something that's got some interesting mystique, something that's gonna keep you guessing throughout a lot of the show, Trigun isn't bad. I don't know, there's just tons and tons of places to start, so there are some of them.
Which writer/director pair would make a better Batman v Superman movie than David S. Goyer and Zack Snyder?
I would get Max Landis to write and Brad Bird to direct. Max Landis would be my choice for writer, basically because he seems to really understand on a very deep and fundamental level who Superman is and what he's about and what makes him interesting if it's done well. He has a lot of really cool and interesting ideas for what he would do with Superman as a character. In fact, there's this really long video where he talks in an extended fashion about his pitch that he wrote at one point for the Death and Return of Superman, and that's really cool, and I really like that. And I would choose Brad Bird as the director mainly because he just really understands superheroes in general, but also because he is very good at taking something big and fantastical and way out there and finding the very raw, very powerful emotional core at the center of it. And his work is very earnest and not cynical, which is what you really need to be able to pull off Superman, at least in my opinion.
Warren Ellis or Mark Millar?
I'm not really familiar with enough of Warren Ellis's stuff to be able to give an informed opinion on him or his works. As for Mark Millar, he has some interesting ideas, but my main problem with him is that he kind of seems to hate superheroes. And there are plenty of reasons to dislike stories about superheroes, I understand that, but then why is he working so closely within the superhero genre? Because what he does for the most part is not so much subversion of typical superhero genre and its tropes, but more just making fun of the typical stuff that you see in superhero stories and making fun of the people for enjoying them and earnestly believing in them. And the increasing amount of hate and vitriol that I see going into more and more of his work when it comes to the superhero genre is just very off-putting, and I really don't like it much.
Which of your videos are you most proud of?
In terms of stuff that's well thought out and well put together, I am very, very fond of both my Lion King 2 review and my Mulan 2 review. Those are easily my best critical work, at least from my perspective. I'm also very proud of the video Don't Touch, which I did earlier in the month. I think that is one of the funnier things I've ever written. And I also feel a certain amount of pride in myself on the occasions where I make a video that is much more earnest and much more honest than my average video tends to be. Maybe honest isn't the best word, because it's not like my other videos are particularly dishonest, but I guess maybe raw, more raw would probably be a better term. I think it's important to be able to share as much of your full self as you can with people. And that's not always very easy for me to do, so when I do manage to do it, I take pride in that.
Do you prefer reviewing Disney ripoffs or Disney Direct DVDs?
You know, it's really a case-by-case basis, because when it comes to the Disney ripoffs, occasionally one of them will be a very pleasant surprise. Cinderella, for instance. But the Disney Direct DVDs often offer me more of an opportunity to flex my critical muscle and really talk about storytelling in general and what works and what doesn't work and why it works or doesn't work. Although I have had more moments of comedy gold overall from the Disney ripoff collection, so I don't know. It's a really tough choice.
Did you ever do theater in high school or college?
No, I did not do theater in high school or college, because frankly, in high school and college, I wasn't good enough to do stuff like that. I've improved over the years for a number of reasons. Part of it is because I have been doing the YouTube thing, so I've been getting practice at it. But also, I've just been hanging around more people who do theater and performance. I've actually joined an improv troupe. We had our first performance in front of an audience earlier this month, and as a result of all that stuff, I've been getting better at that kind of thing. I feel like I could probably do at least some theater now. But yeah, in high school and college, no. I wasn't there, man. And that is all the long answer questions. Remember to come back tomorrow for all of the questions that were submitted to the other people hanging out around here. And until next time, Code Monkeys and fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.